Okay, what will you do this week? Well, this week, your first module is going to be the interior of the Earth. And so you'll have 4 parts to the lecture component, just like you did in Module 1. And so I've got a couple things for you to look at in order to take the lecture quiz. So there is an interior of the Earth PowerPoint that you can download and then view in presentation mode is the best way. The other thing you can do, of course, is watch this little video. So basically, I walked through the PowerPoint and, like we were in a live class, lectured over it. So that should be something that you should look through and then take a quick peek at the PowerPoint. There are some links in the PowerPoint that you can visit that kind of add some information. So you want to check those. Now, because there's extra material here, there is a chapter on the interior of the Earth that I want you to look at. So there is some overlap between the two, but the couple areas I want you to focus on in the chapter is isostasy is a term that is introduced in the chapter. I don't really talk about that in the interior of the Earth, so I want you to look through that. And though I mention, kind of the magnetic field, they go in a little more depth in the chapter, so I want you to focus on those. So those are the two things to focus on in the chapter. Of course, everything's fair game, and like I said, there's lots of overlap between the two. So PowerPoint, probably a good place to start, and then look through the chapter. But like I said, focus on those kind of areas when you're reading through the chapter. And then, of course, the link will just take you to the lecture quiz. There is an article to look at. That one is a article about drilling down into the mantle. So you can go ahead and take a look at that. The video, once again, there's overlap here, so hopefully that's helpful. The video is from a series called Earth Revealed. Now, the good news and bad news is, the good news is there's like 25 short, relative is the term, short, 20, 25-minute videos discuss all these different topics. They did a really great job of giving you the basic information. Bad news is they were made in the 1980s, so there's some questionable fashion choices maybe compared to what we have today. And of course, the technology is very dated. But look, the geology hasn't changed in that time period, especially the basics. And so I still think it's a useful video for you to watch. And hopefully it'll reinforce some of the other information you've already been exposed to. So go ahead and watch that and for the video quiz. And then finally, the homework here, you're going to just fill out some information on this document here. So I'll see if I can pop it up. And so this is a kind of naming the different parts of the Earth based on some different properties, which we went over in the lecture. And then there is this kind of chart I want you to fill out. And so it asks you for, the thickness of the different areas of the Earth, parts of the Earth, the percent. So I tell you how to do it, right? If you find the thickness, you're just going to divide by the total radius of the Earth, right? And then you can multiply by 100 to get a percent. So, does the crust make up half of the Earth or just a small, tiny percent or vice versa? You go through those elements. So for elements composition, even for layer thickness, look, there's some varieties in there depending on your sources. So the book has some stuff. You can look online for some of this information. And so I just want, close, right? So there's a range, that's fine. There may not be an exact number. So don't stress too much if you see slightly different values. But so the thickness, the elements, same thing, just the general stuff. What's in general making up the crust or the mantle or the outer inner core, right? So is it made of, kittens and ladybugs? Or, if you have some elements like, it's made of iron or there's a lot of silica or something, you find that perfect, okay? And the phases of matter just means is it a solid, liquid, or gas? And then temperature range, also, there's going to be some variations there too. So some reasonable numbers in Celsius would be useful. And so that's how you'll fill that out, and then you can submit that. This is a PDF, so if you have troubles writing on here, you can use the letter system here, question 1, A, B, C, D. You could just open a Word document and put your answers in that, question 2, A, B, C, D, E, F. Question 3, and then you could list them if you can't or have trouble writing on this document. You could print it and handwrite it, take a picture and submit that. You could scan it. And like I said, you can just use a Word document, open it, and put your information in there if that works for you. So any of those methods are fine for the homework submission. And then, of course, there is a lab with this week's, like there is every week, or for this module anyway. This is the one module where there's not a good connection between lecture and lab. After this, all of the other labs will support the information you learn in lecture, and so hopefully that'll be helpful. But I need you to have a little bit of information and skill on how to read maps. So that's what this is all about. And so there are a bunch of pages here for you to go through to learn about some topographic maps. There's videos that I want you to visit. And there's also a video that I made over geologic maps, so you'll want to go through that. And so read this information will help you figure out how to read some maps. And then when you get to the lab, even in the lab itself, there is a tutorial on how to do the lab. So it's right here. And so it'll walk you through some of the nuances of doing the lab and all that kind of good stuff. And of course, as you're working through all this stuff and you have questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. And that goes for the lab, that goes for lecture stuff. If there's an article that's unclear, or if this big PowerPoint and unclear, feel free to reach out to me and I'll respond as quick as I can. The other tip I'll give you is that it is a lot of information, so you want to treat it like you're in a regular class. Taking some notes on the video that you're watching, on the PowerPoint might be useful. Taking some notes on the article you're reading, and then studying from that before you take the quiz can be helpful. All right, so that's what we got for this module on the Earth's interior. And like I said, reach out if you have questions, and I'll help you out.